Beyond the headlines. This is World Insight.
Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei. August 1st this year marks the 85th anniversary of the Flying Tigers, a legacy of Chinese and American soldiers fighting side by side, trusting each other with their lives during some of the World War II's darkest days. That shared history has become one of the most emotionally resonant chapters between the two peoples as well. Decades later, veterans and their families returned to China not to fight, but to remember. I joined them in one of those occasions. This is the Wanping Fortress, built in the Ming Dynasty, but is most well known in China's modern history for bearing witness to the war against the Japanese aggression by the Chinese people. It is in this ancient fortress the Chinese built the Museum of the War of Chinese People's Resistance against the Japanese aggression. Part of the exhibition is devoted to the appreciation the Chinese people have for the American Flying Tigers. The American volunteer group was later known by their moniker, the Flying Tigers. Though only in combat for less than 7 months from 1941 to 1942, the group became famous at the time for helping the Chinese people to inflict outsized damage on Japan's much better equipped and much larger aircraft fleet.
Now, I wasn't the pilot. I was a nose gunner, a nose turret gunner on a B-24 bomber. We were stationed in Kunming and then Shantou. I was just 18 years old.
What was it like to be the wife of Flying Tiger?
Well, it was certainly interesting to hear their stories, and it's been wonderful coming back to China to see the places he was when he was 18 years old. And it's been great to see what China has become.
The Flying Tigers were created in the face of combat prior to Pearl Harbor. The U.S. wanted to retain a facade of neutrality then, while helping Chinese against the Japanese invasion. So only Chinese funds were used to buy American aircraft and supplies, and China paid the salaries of the volunteer squadrons. But after Pearl Harbor, the U.S. was formally at war with Japan. U.S. military leaders pushed for the AVG to be absorbed into the U.S. Army Air Forces. The leader of Flying Tigers, General Chennault, rejoined the Army in 1942. By July 1942, the Flying Tigers were officially integrated into the new 23rd Fighter Group. But all these parts of the history was not as well known in America as it is in China. Clifford Long Jr. is the son of a Flying Tiger, 14th Air Force fighter pilot Clifford Long Sr. He brought his father's photos and his 15-year young grandson Jackson over to China this time. He wants that part of history to be remembered. He also wants the friendship between ordinary Chinese and Americans to be carried on. That's him?
That's him.
You can hold this?
Hold it.
Yeah, hold it.
You can also hold the other.
I'm the errand boy of this group, so.
Yeah? This is your great-grandpa?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wow.
That's
him?
That's him.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to be having fun, yeah?
Well, he was smiling for the picture.
Smiling for a picture, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll hold this one too, don't
Yeah.
He always had his, my mother's name written on the plane, you know, on the fuselage.
Right.
Where they would write something.
Right.
He always put my mother, it was just his girlfriend at the time, they weren't married, and he had her name on the plane. And he rushed.
After that, they married.
He rushed home from the war, after the war ended, he rushed home to marry her. And so they were together 70-some years.
Yeah.
This
we want to show you.
This is a picture of them before the war.
Okay.
And he was 17 and she was 16.
Wow. That's really fun, yeah. Wow.
So.
Well, he looks a lot like me, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was impressive that his plane, it just looks so clean, you know?
Yeah.
I'd assume, like, at times where I assume it's really dirty, but I was really impressed that he was able to keep it clean.
Mm-hmm. He loves his plane.
No,
Yeah.
I could tell he loves his Shirley.
Yeah. It's like his body, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, at war, the plane's basically an extension of yourself. If it gets hit, you're done.
Your grandpa knows all the details.
Oh yeah, all the details.
All the
He even hides some from me, so he looks better when we get interviewed.
That's really wonderful. I see he cherishes that part of history of family so much.
We all do.
Yeah.
It chokes me up when I talk about it sometimes.
It's okay.
In his notes, I have a page there that he listed his trip over to China, where he flew, how he got here. And he had to travel to South America, over to Africa, up through there and over to China. Mm-hmm. There was no going straight across.
No. At the time.
They had to go all the way around. I mean, days and days.
Right. They were really young, like almost your age, just a little bit older, yeah?
About 2 years.
About 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine yourself in the shoes of theirs at that time?
I mean, not exactly, but I definitely give it a go.
Yeah.
I was thinking about getting my pilot's license.
Oh, you
so
did?
I can fly, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
But I gotta be 16.
Okay.
So I gotta wait a while.
Maybe you can fly also to China one day.
Maybe.
The great-grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Following his footsteps.
Indeed. I know that you are building friendship schools.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Between Chinese and American schools, high schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know he is the first on the volunteer list.
That's me. Out of 25. Number 1.
Yeah, number 1. Why is that important to you, my dear?
I don't know. It was just cool to be number 1. I mean, first person, everybody's behind me, I guess.
That's very good. But, what are these friendship schools for? What do you think?
Strengthening our relationship with China, really. Just building friendships and bonds that we can carry on in the future.
With your peers, right?
Yeah.
Are you proud? Aren't you proud?
Oh, very much. That's why I brought him along. He's amazing. For a 15-year-old, he's so poised and intelligent, and he's very interested in learning. And so it's. I can sit at home and talk to him and tell him my father's stories and talk to him about China, but it would not even be close to having him come here and experience it himself. So that's what's so important.
When hanging out with this delegation, one could find the name of General Chennault in almost every conversation they had about history. Claire Lee Chennault first went to China to survey the Chinese Air Force readiness and stayed on to lead the creation of the American Volunteer Group. He was a U.S. Army aviator, instructor, and tactician. He is a legend, even once described by the Time magazine as lean, hard-bitten, and taciturn. He was both tough, strong, and soft-hearted, though, in the eyes of the Flying Tigers and his family. How did he convey those part of his life to you, for example, the family members?
I was only 8 years old when he passed away.
Indeed.
I didn't even know anything, but he was my grandfather. But, we have 2 grandfathers. My other grandfather was the kind where he wanted to be with the adults, and maybe the children should go outside and play. With my grandfather, Chennault, my memory of him is going to his house. He would send my mother and father in the kitchen to have tea with Anna, his wife, and he would take my 2 brothers, he set my 2 brothers on the sofa, and he would sit me on his lap. And he would talk to us about what we wanted to do. He never talked about what he did. I didn't even know he served in the military until after he passed away. And he wanted to instill in us appreciation of education and how important that was. I do remember him talking about that. Are you studying? Make sure you study really hard. I was only 8, and I thought, well, I'll try. Yeah.
I don't want to see him
Exactly.
again. So you are having the special treatment sitting on his lap.
Right.
While the other kids were on the sofa.
Well, my 2 brothers were older. I was the youngest, so that was kind of easy.
What is it like for you, to revisit the history many times?
Well, I think it makes me even more aware of the responsibility that we have. As I say, they no longer have a voice. They've all passed away. So it's up to me, it's up for me to pass it on to my children, him to pass it on to his children. The responsibility of talking about the friendship that we shared, because I think that the friendship that we shared during World War II helps us to build a foundation for the future ahead.
Can you bear it if it is being shaken?
Well, that is difficult. But, you know, I related it today, and I don't know that I've ever thought about it before. But, you know, family members don't always get along. And, you know, they don't. And I think I've interviewed so many veterans. We have a veteran oral history program at the museum that I'm at. And I've interviewed so many veterans, and so many of them have told me how much they appreciate the Chinese. And they told me, we fought together as brothers. And they've used that word many times, many different people have. And I think that that's something that we can build on.
Have you formed your own opinions? I'm sure you did.
Yes, and like I said, back in 2005, I came back in 2000, I think it was 15. And every time I've been here, I just get a greater appreciation for the people here. I could have not come back and not wanted to return, but I have. I've always told her I would love to go back just because I like the culture, but I love the people, and I like the reverence for history and their appreciation. I think that's what kind of sticks with me, and they're very respectful. And we don't always get that, but I appreciate that.
You know, thinking about General Chanel, he's a man with a lot of personality.
Yes, he was. Very determined person.
Yeah, and be able to make tough decisions.
You know, I think one of the things I admire about him, he made tough decisions that weren't always popular, but he stuck with them. You know, he, even with the United States military, he was very determined in his ideas about fighter tactics and fighter airplanes at a time when the United States military was telling him, we don't need fighter airplanes. The bombers can do it all. But yet he stuck to it. And if he had gone along with the military, he could have been promoted, possibly even made general officer in the military without ever coming to China. But he didn't feel that way. He felt very strongly that if the United States were ever to get into another conflict after World War I, that the fighter airplanes would be, you know, necessary. And then he had the opportunity to come to China and to prove his ideas about combat.
He was tough.
He was tough. I don't know if you know it, but he was very hard of hearing. And that was one of the reasons the military asked him to retire. So he comes to a foreign country, to a foreign people. He doesn't speak their language. He really doesn't even hear their language very well. But he stayed. You know, when it would have been so much easier for him to go home.
Yes.
And to go back to his family. And he loved to hunt and fish, and he bought a farm, and he moved my grandmother and my mother to that farm.
Life.
He could have had an easy life. But the one thing that too impressed me about him, he didn't see Chinese people as being different. He saw Chinese people as being another human being in need. And that was what he stayed to help. And I really appreciate that. And I think it's something that we all could learn lessons from, especially today, because we should not see each other as being different. We should see each other as all wanting the same things. We all want to raise our families in peace. We want to be prosperous, but we also want to give our children a better future. I had never met Harry before, the one that turned 103. Yeah. This was my first time to meet him, but that was the first thing he told me when I met him. He said, I just want you to know, I came to China because of General Chenault. He could have gone home, but he wanted to come serve under General Chenault. He wanted that opportunity, and he's not the first one I've heard that from. You know, that was one thing about my grandfather, I think, too, that I've come to appreciate, is all the men that knew him loved him, and they were willing to follow him, even if it meant being maybe killed in what they were doing in the combat that they were in. But they always wanted to follow him. He never wanted them to think of him as a leader. He wanted them to think of him as one of them, as a soldier fighting side by side.
Welcome back. This is World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Some suggest U.S. and China are in an AI race, but others disagree. Gary Dvorak, the Blue Shirt Group managing director, makes the case that China and the U.S. have no choice but to cooperate. That's because when machines get smarter than us, going it alone won't cut it. He also offers practical advice for young people navigating an AI-driven job market and shares a personal story about bridging cultures. His takeaway: cooperation isn't a choice, it's a necessity. Take a look at my conversation with him. China-U.S. leaders have agreed on track one dialogue on AI security, we hasn't yet seen more public information about it. As someone who's working in the field and who knows the bilateral relations so well, what is your assessment?
I think it's a big challenge because the United States and China are inventing the future, right? And so both countries are rivals, and we're competing very aggressively, and each one wants to win, but there's not really going to be one winner. I think the whole world is going to win. So we're rivals, we're competing, but at the same time, we have to have cooperation because the power of AI is so strong, and these things are going to be smarter than human beings before we know it. So we need to work together to control and guide where the industry goes. So you have two competing tensions to both compete to win and cooperate so that the outcome is good for humanity.
Right. We saw competition between the countries. We also saw competition among the companies.
Yeah.
Which is the best, the frontier model, which is the best, the large language model, and the agentic bodies, and the list goes on. But what do you think is the logic that needs to be set here? The logic that not we are talking about it, but we can do something about it.
Yeah. Well, that's the most difficult challenge because the pace of advancement is so fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Technology-wise.
I mean, literally, you wait 2 or 3 months, and there's new functionality, there's new strength of the models, how smart they are. And by the way, I think we all know that we're at the point where they're almost developing themselves. So all of the AI, the infrastructure companies that are doing the models are doing the coding, right? And they're doing the development, and it doesn't take long before these things are smart and they're developing themselves, and it becomes hard for human beings to even understand what they're doing. And so the imperative is it's very urgent that we put a ring fence around it and understand how things are developing and make sure they're going in the right direction.
Right.
I think that's the fundamental challenge.
However, we also know there are very low barometers, at least, that both countries can use and can work on together on both the drawing up of these barometers and also implementation of these barometers. So what does it take, do you think? The political courage and willingness? Or something else?
You need willingness, of course, right? I think we need to have the right set of incentives in place. And the incentive is, what's the outcome for humanity? I mean, okay, we're competing countries, but we're all human beings. And with the technology that's powerful, where is it going to end up? I mean, things never end, it continues, but we have an incentive when we look at each other and say, wait a minute, we're the human beings here, and these are the machines, and we need to work together. So I think that will overwhelm more of the competition and who's going to win. At some point, I think we're going to look at each other and say, wait a minute, like we're actually on the same team.
Right.
And the AIs are not the enemy, but we're on the same team, and we need to control it together.
To work on topics related to AI and its social impact, for example, on the job market and on the business cooperation between China, US, and beyond. So tell me more about what you have found out so far, and what are the important messages do you think everybody need to understand?
The young people just entering the job market probably have the most confusion about what is going to happen and what they should do, because career paths that were standard for generations are suddenly disappearing. And we all know about this, right? So they're junior positions in law firms and investment banking, other professional services. So if you were someone coming into that sort of career path, what do you do? How did things change? And so there aren't any answers, but it's a very robust discussion going on now. I'm kind of optimistic. I think there's going to be as much new opportunity as there are, for every job lost, there's going to be something else interesting that young people are going to be able to do. Yeah. I have 2 daughters that are early 20s starting their careers. So this is a very
dear
personal
to the heart.
topic. We talk about it in our family all the time. How do you pick a career path that is going to be there 10, 20, 30 years from now?
What is your advice? Did they listen?
Well, your children never listen. They do. They do. the advice is to understand what AI can and can't do. And this is true for all ages, but especially young people. And we have this discussion with my staff. Because in my business, AI can do a lot of the work that we used to do, writing press releases, creating PowerPoints, all that kind of thing. We look at ourselves and say, well, what's our value? What does our client want to pay us for? And the thing AIs can't do yet, and they probably never will, is the human element.
Right.
AI is sitting on my phone waiting for a question. That's where people can still be valuable. And I think especially young people starting out, they have to think what jobs are in the physical world, right? And maybe someday robots will do everything. I mean, China's the leader in humanoid robots and all that. But as of today, to be out in the physical world and interacting with people is not obsolete.
There's one thing that you're doing that really a lot of people would love to hear more about. You are trying to take back a house that actually has really big significance in terms of China-US relations in recent decades. Tell me more about that.
I think certainly everyone in China knows the story.
Tell us once
Xi
again.
Jinping, as a young man, came to the state of Iowa in 1985 with a delegation to learn about agriculture and to learn how the Americans were so productive in agriculture. And he spent 2 weeks traveling around the state. And during that time, they had a homestay in my hometown. And so President and two others of the delegation stayed in my house. My bedroom is where he slept. So that's my claim to him. I wasn't there. I was away at college. That's why the bedroom was empty.
Your parents told us about that.
So my mom and dad and my sister were there at the time. And of course, now later, we've met the president because he feels this fondness for all the people he met back in 1985.
Yeah.
So the house itself now is quite famous, and it's probably the most famous American home in China. Everyone has seen the pictures of it. So it was owned by a Chinese businessman, but I bought it back in 2023. So my family now owns my childhood home again, and we're developing it into a museum. So we've always had a lot of visitors, and people are curious. They come and they came. The house has always been open to the public, but they come around, they just look at the house, right? Now we put in exhibits and video and all these things to tell the story of what happened. So people can know more of the details. What we want to do is inspire people. And we want to see, okay, the president came in 1985, he interacted, and remember then he wasn't the president, he was just a regular guy, right? So normal, regular Chinese group of people came, they interacted with Americans, they got to know each other. And that kind of people-to-people understanding is the best foundation for the countries. And the president says it all the time. It's one of his biggest philosophical points is people-to-people exchanges, getting to know each other. He has the 50,000 students in 5 years initiative,
That's been accomplished.
Yeah, and they got done early, right? And I'm like, let's go for 100,000. Let's keep it going. But so he understands from his own personal experience how important it is to know people on that basic level. And so what we want to do is people visit the house, but also to inspire them to think, well, what can I do? Can I organize exchange students? Can I have kids from China come live with me for a year if they're going to? So whatever it is. So we don't want people to just look at the house and take a picture, but we also want them to come out and think, what can I do to help this kind of effort?
You know, what is it like for you to see the ups and downs, especially since May, when the two presidents met with a fruitful result? The strategic stability, constructive strategic stability, that is the phrase they used. How much do you think that has been implemented? As someone who knows the relationship very well about the zigzagging path, what do you think it still needs to be done before the other big engagement between the two sides?
I'm more optimistic than I've ever been. And obviously this has been going on for a long time because 2012 was when the president, Xi Jinping, was ascending to the presidency. And I thought during the first Trump administration, the relationship was not bad, but there's negotiating, right? And so President Trump has a very specific style. He works hard, he negotiates hard, but when you're done, you've made your deal, sit down, shake hands, it's nothing personal, you're friends. I think when we went through the Biden administration, it was different. It was much more personal, there was more animosity. I think we hit the low point during the Biden administration, and now that Trump is back, I mean, you can see he respects Xi Jinping, he's my friend, he came over here, he's invited him back to America again. And there's going to be tough negotiation, no doubt. But when the negotiating's done, they're going to shake hands, maybe they'll hug each other. And there's like we're the two leaders
Yeah.
of the world. Xi Jinping and Donald Trump are the leaders of the world, and they need to get along. They need to respect each other, and they do. So I think that is driving the relationship in the right direction.
Right, the leadership level.
And I definitely, you know, from my perspective, being American and talking to Americans, I can see the feeling for China is definitely changing, and it's for the better. There's still some people that are loud and aggressive, but those are kind of disappearing, and the more positive is coming to the front.
From now until the next big engagement between the two presidents, whether it's bilateral or on multilateral stage, what do you think is the best thing for all of us to do? Those of us who is not at the top leadership but diplomacy.
The best we can and should do is like making our own lives the best they can be, and of course, and you know, we interact. You know, Chinese people interact with foreigners here in China, and there's a lot of Chinese people in America, and we interact as friendly people together on our daily life basis. And then the senior people will work out what they have to work out. But I think you and I just wake up and live the best life we can live.
That's the best advice.
Yeah.
Gary, always a pleasure. Thank you so much, my friend.
This was wonderful. Thanks for having me.
And that is all the time we have for today. If you'd like to know more, search World Insight. Check out our YouTube channel, follow us on X and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei. Thanks for being with me. Bye for now.